Hello, everybody. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. Thanks for joining me. Please take a moment to share this. Let everyone know. Please take a second to hit the thumbs up and the clickety-doo-dah and the subscription and the things and the that's and the this is. Thanks for all you wonderful people being out there and tuning in. I mean, you might not all be wonderful. I mean, statistically speaking, some of you are dicks, but you probably, those of you who are dicks out there, you probably think you're a good, wonderful person. So therefore, when I say hello, all the wonderful people, everyone goes, oh, he means me, including the dicks. Most of you are right. You are wonderful people, but the dicks are, welcome to the dicks as well. I've got a great story for you. I'm going to cover, well, actually a couple of them we're going to get into. So let's dig into it. Well, I'm going to start off with the kind of update on a story that I did not long ago. I talked to Lillian House. You might remember that I had her on here, and she was one of the organizers that had organized numerous peaceful protests in Denver and Aurora, Colorado, because of the killing of an unarmed black man there by the police. They were demanding an investigation, and they ultimately got it. Anyway, they were facing, Lillian House, along with the two others, were facing these ridiculous charges, and one of them being kidnapping police. Yeah, you can imagine how well that would have gone if that were legitimate. If they had legitimately tried to grab police and put them in their car with a fucking black bag over their heads or some shit. Police don't tend to sit around and wait for that. So no, the accusation of kidnapping was because someone had put rope around the handles of the police station, and thereby the police inside were claiming they had been kidnapped. Anyway, to give you a little update on that story, let's see here. Lillian House, Joel Northam, and Eliza Lucero just had their charges for kidnapping police officers dismissed by the Denver judge. The ridiculous charges were slapped on them as retribution for organizing protests to demand justice for Elijah McClain. So, yeah, that is good news. That is not all of their charges, I believe. There's still several other charges against them. However, that was the most ridiculous and the one that would have resulted in the most time in prison. So it is good to see that dropped as our fascist state fucking tries to crush those who organize any kind of protest to demand accountability from our police, from our law enforcement, from our jackbooted goons. These people are made an example of and have these insane charges against them. So it is good to see those dropped, and I just wanted to let you guys know about that update. Okay, so let's get into the main story I wanted to get into. And yes, this again has a little bit to do with China. However, I don't want you thinking like, oh God, this is like the third episode on China. The reason this is about China, and several of these have been about China, is because that is one of the main fucking neoliberal, neocon, propagandistic bullshit, corporate garbage, propaganda. I already said that word, shouldn't have said it twice, that is being thrown at us. And so by undermining and explaining and revealing the truth behind this propaganda, I hope that I can explain to you and you can then explain to others how we are lied to, how they manufacture the consent for war as they're trying to do with China, even if it's not a hot war, because nuclear exchange is perhaps not the best idea, even a cold war, which sanctions can kill tens of thousands. So I feel like by revealing this shit, it's not just about, oh, I really want to help China. No, it's about if you realize the fucking garbage that is coming from our mainstream media and our politicians and our so-called leaders, if you realize the bullshit that's coming from them on this topic, then you'll probably look at some other topics and go, hey, I learned not to trust you on that other bullshit topic. Maybe I shouldn't trust you on this one. And maybe your friends will as well. That's why I want to get into this. There was a new study. Hopefully, if you're a regular viewer, you might remember that I covered the reporting, the reports that declared that China was committing a genocide against the Uyghurs. And those studies or whatever came almost exclusively from this crackpot Adrian Zenz. I'm not going to get into him again because I've done it on multiple episodes. I'll just leave it at like one sentence. Evangelical, anti-Semite, German who has no basis for claiming to be a China expert or a Uyghur expert. And he is the one writing reports saying that China, and he believes God sent him to destroy China. And so he's writing these reports saying that China's committing a genocide, and everyone's gobbling them up. Even fucking Democracy Now! and a few other of the more progressive outlets. So many, of course, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, they all love it. They're gobbling it up. You show them something that says China's committing genocide. Doesn't matter who it's by. They're like, they fucking love it. Now, there's a new report, a new one, because apparently some people are asking some questions about this Adrian Zenz guy. So there's a new report that the mainstream media, again, was like, oh my God, here it is. We have it, an independent report, not Adrian Zenz. We have a new independent report showing that there is a genocide in China happening now. Oh my God. So they claimed it was an independent report. So this is the article from the Gray Zone. This article is written by Ajit Singh, and it's the independent report claiming Uyghur genocide. And I want to get into this because it is fucking hysterical. It is tremendously funny. Almost as funny as the Adrian Zenz shit. Okay, so I'll give you the opening quote from the article. Throughout March of 2021, throughout this month, headlines in corporate media outlets from CNN to The Guardian have blared about the release of the first independent report. No more Adrian Zenz. This is the first independent report to authoritatively determine that the Chinese government has violated each and every act of the UN Convention Against Genocide, and therefore, quote, bears state responsibility for committing genocide against the Uyghurs. Bang, bang, bang. The report was published on March 8th by, and are you ready for these very official organizations that put it out? The New Lines Institute for Strategy and Policy. Wow, sounds very official, very official. In collaboration with the Raoul and the Americanized way of pronouncing it would be Wallenberg Center for Human Rights. Although I know from someone Swedish that it's like Wallenberg Center for Human Rights. I'll get back to that one in a minute, but I'll just leave you with this. And I'm going to do the Americanized version again. Wallenberg was as described to me, kind of the Schindler of Sweden. He is an oppressive human being. I don't think he's alive anymore, but was an oppressive human being who basically tried to make sure Jews were not killed in World War II. Okay, so he's impressive, but this is a center with his name on it. And at first, that sounds very official too, right? If you saw the Oscar Schindler Center of Diggity-Doo, you'd go, wow, I bet they do some official shit there. So those are the two organizations that put out this report, New Lines Institute and Raoul Wallenberg. So CNN, The Guardian, AFP, and CBC hailed the March 8th New Lines report as an independent analysis and a landmark legal report that involved dozens of international experts. Samantha Power, the Biden administration's nominee for the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, also promoted it and said this report shows how this genocide is precisely what China is doing with the Uyghurs. Now, if you don't know USAID, it's a CIA cutout, meaning it's basically CIA, but it's laundered through USAID, so it looks like an aid organization. So CIA cutout, and they were going to put Biden's trying to put Samantha Power at the head of it. Samantha Power, if you don't know her, well known as the kind of head of this responsibility to protect by the United States. She has never met a war she didn't love. She has never met a bombing she wasn't fucking cheering. Yeah, because she would tell you, we're saving people. We are saving democracy, and we're saving all those human beings, not the ones we blow up, but the other ones. The one any that aren't blown up, saving. Any ones that remain after the blowing upage, saved all of them. Okay. And she would tell you that's why we got to keep bombing, and we got to do it in lots of places because we're saving so many people. So that's what she's known for. Very good person, wonderful person. Like you, like all of you, wonderful people. So this is when Ajit Singh gets into who these signatories are to the report. A lot of people signed on to this thing. So for those who kind of aren't really looking into it, they read a list of names and they go, wow, sounds very official. Okay, cool. But as the Gray Zone says, a majority of the report's expert signatories are members of the New Lines Institute and the Wallenberg Center. Others are members of the hawkish Interparliamentary Alliance on China, former U.S. State Department officials, and ardent supporters of U.S. military intervention. The report relies most substantially on the expertise of, drumroll please, Adrian Zenz, the far-right evangelical ideologue whose scholarship on China has been demonstrated to be deeply flawed, riddled with falsehoods, and dishonest statistical manipulation. And honestly would love another genocide because he said in his book that the Jews who don't turn to Christ will be burned in a fiery furnace. So kind of funny that the guy who wants a genocide is upset about a genocide that he's made up in his head. Now, for those of you thinking, well, okay, but I get the point that the report is crap, but this isn't very funny. It's going to get funny. I'd like to refer to this as laundering of facts. These facts or this information or this propaganda, facts is the wrong word because that implies true. This is the laundering of propaganda. If our U.S. government were to come out and say, hey, we've got a report that says China does genocide, then most people are smart enough, or a lot of people are smart enough to go, well, that sounds kind of biased. That sounds like you are a government that wants to hurt China, so you put this out. But if you launder that, just like laundering money, if a guy shows up with a fucking $100,000 in unmarked bills in a bag and goes, this is mine. I made it. I was playing the flute on the subway. I made this money, and also I'm connected to the mob. See, they do that, then the bank gets suspicious, the IRS gets suspicious. But if you launder the money, right, you put it through a fake, dry cleaner or something. Oh, we just made $100,000 with dry cleaning. Kind of crazy. It was a good spot. A lot of walk-in traffic. Oh my God. Then you can get through the IRS, the FBI, banks. You can trick them all because you say dry cleaning. This is what our government and those who want to create a new Cold War with China, create economic war with China, that's what they're doing right now with propaganda. They're laundering it. They're putting it through a fake dry cleaner storefront, so that you go, well, I trust this report because it came from a dry cleaner. I think I've pushed this analogy as far as I can. People trust this report because it came from the New Line Institute. It's an unbiased report from the New Line Institute and the Wallenberg Center. So there you go. All it's got to be legit. It comes from these two legit places. But then if you're smart, if you actually give a shit, if you actually question, if you actually want to dig deeper and find out what the flying fuck is going on here, you go, what is the New Line Institute? What is it? Well, as Ajit Singh says, the New Line Institute's parent organization is the Fairfax University of America. The what? The Fairfax University of America, by the way, I'm from Virginia. There's nothing in Fairfax. So the fact that a university is there, that sets off an alarm bell right there. The Fairfax University of Virginia is a disgraced institution that state regulators, this is Virginia state regulators, all right? Virginia not known for doing amazing shit on the education front, but even though I went to college there, I really shouldn't criticize them. And I went to public schools there. So, I mean, they do amazing things. Virginia, incredible. Anyway, disgraced institution that state regulators moved to shut down in 2019 after finding that, quote, its teachers weren't qualified to teach their assigned courses. Academic quality was patently deficient, and plagiarism was rampant and ignored. So basically, what the article continues to reveal is that this university, Fairfax University of America, is really a visa mill. A visa mill is where foreign students apply to a university. They accept all of them. Doesn't matter if they're good, if they're legitimate, if they are actually have good grades, if they're actually studying hard. Doesn't matter. They accept them all for a price, and then they give them a visa. So it's basically a fake way to get a visa into the country. You say, I'm going to school. And the school's like, yeah, whatever. We don't care. Study, don't study. We'll give you A's. Just send us the checks, all right? Send us the fucking checks. So it's a visa mill, apparently. And now it's a storefront for a propaganda laundering expedition. So the Ajit Singh also gets into how, and I kind of skipped over the part like, okay, let's assume that this is a somewhat shady university. That, you know, New Line is that's their parent company is this Fairfax University, kind of shady. Why does that mean that this couldn't be a legit report on Uyghur genocide? Well, I hope you'd ask the question, if this were a legit report, why the fuck would it be run by a fucking awful visa mill? By a fucking bottom of the barrel garbage university. This is like Trump University, all right? Do you remember Trump University? All the students sued because Trump wasn't actually teaching them anything, wasn't actually there. He was just accepting tuition to do nothing. Like, this is a garbage facility, and they are the parent company over a report on genocide in China. If this were a real genocide, wouldn't you be furious that people aren't getting legit reports from legit organizations? Like, if this were real, wouldn't you, as someone who cares about people being genocided, be like, hey, I got an idea. Let's not go to the fucking scam university to get the report done. Let's go to some real universities, some real academics. Let's go to fucking Stanford and Yale and all the ones people brag about. Let's get them to do the report. Wouldn't you be dying for real, legit reporting if this genocide were real? And if you were these officials that signed on, like Samantha Power and Joe Biden and Pompeo and all these fucking shit human beings, if you were them and this were a real genocide, wouldn't you be calling for that? Wouldn't you be demanding that fucking Harvard and Yale and Cambridge and Oxford and all these fucking high-level universities that everyone goes, I went to Oxford and all that garbage? Wouldn't you be like, they need to do the studies if the genocide were real? No. Yes, you would. But when the genocide is not real, when it's made up, when it's a piece of bullshit propaganda, guess what? You can't go to those places for these studies. You can't approach them for these studies because guess what? They're going to show the reality. They're not going to put their name. I mean, this is not to say they've all done great shit. They support weapons contractors and stuff. So I don't want to act like they wouldn't put their name on something shitty, but I just mean they wouldn't put their name on a fake study probably. Yes, they'll take money from people that build missiles that kill a lot of people, but they're not going to put their name on a fake study. So you got to go to these organizations and 3 steps removed, right? Because step 1 is the New Line Institute. Step 2 is the Fairfax University. Step 3 is that Fairfax University is not really legit. And then step 4 is the fact that this report claimed to be completely unbiased. Here's a quote from the report. "This is not an advocacy document. We're not advocating any course of action whatsoever," stated Azim Ibrahim, director of special initiatives at New Lines Institute. "There were no campaigners involved in this report. It was purely done by legal experts, area experts, and China ethnic experts." However, Ajit Singh goes through, and I'm not going to do it because it would take 45 minutes or something, but goes through each of the signers of this report and who they are. And without fail, every one of them is connected to ongoing regime change in other countries, U.S.-backed fucking wars, U.S.-backed garbage, U.S.-backed propaganda. They all are connected to it. So when they claim in this report, oh, this is just experts. Yeah, it's experts who have a long career, a long storied career of supporting our U.S. empire fucking destruction, war and destruction and death and abuse. They have long histories of that, like Samantha Power. And those are the people that signed on to this document. As Ajit Singh says, as the author says at the Gray Zone, rather than consult a wide range of authorities and academic experts or subjected study to peer review, New Lines relied entirely on a narrowly focused community of like-minded ideologues. Also, I figured I'd take, just to give you one final taste of what exactly Fairfax University is that oversaw this report. I wanted to read you a online comment, an online review of the university that was posted. Let's see here. "Don't waste your time here." This is the review of Fairfax University, which used to be called Virginia International University. That's why it says that over here in the corner. "I've been working at Fairfax University of America full-time for more than a year. It's the worst place I've ever encountered in my life. This is not a legitimate university. It is based on fraud. Every student that applies gets accepted. No credentials are needed. Fraudulent documentation is encouraged and is accepted by the university. Management only cares about the dollars they're bringing in. They've lost many valuable people because they do not care about their employees. They treat their employees like shit, blah, blah, blah. They do not follow any labor employment laws. Many of the employees are previous students of the universities. They will do as they're told because of their visa status. Management, including the president, are not qualified for their jobs. Most of them have no prior experience in higher education, and many are not able to fully speak English. This place will eventually be shut down due to all of the illegal activities." So how does that sound for an institute to oversee a report on genocide in China? Like, if you learn that about an institution, would you be like, that's the one, we need them, let's get them? No, that's who you go to when you are full of shit. That's who you go to when you assume you can write New Lines Initiative over or institute or whatever over the top, and no one will really look in to what it is. That's exactly what that is. So now let's move on to the other signatory, the other main overarching institute or organization that put out this report. One was the New Line Institute. The other was the Swedish name I can't pronounce, Wallenberg Center. Like I said, he was an impressive guy. He's like the Oskar Schindler of Sweden. However, the center that has his name, that carries his name, to go back to the Gray Zone, based in Montreal, the Wallenberg Center was founded by Erwin Cutler. Notice, not by Wallenberg. Former Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. In Canada. While often touted as a human rights champion, Cutler is, in fact, a champion of the quote-unquote responsibility to protect, the same thing that Samantha Power talks a lot about, and, quote, humanitarian intervention, unquote, which are regularly invoked by Western states in order to justify imperial interventions in the global South. Kotler routinely levels propagandistic accusations of human rights abuses, atrocities, and genocide in service of Western imperialism, including interventions. This is what he's lobbied for, the guy that created and runs the institute, the center. He's lobbied for interventions in Libya, Syria, Iran, Venezuela. And Venezuela is where Kotler served as legal counsel for the far-right U.S.-backed Venezuelan coup leader, Leopoldo Lopez. Lopez's wife, Lilian Tintori, holds an advisory position at the Wallenberg Center. So there you go. That's what the Wallenberg Center actually is. So it's something to put, it's kind of like NATO. They write their name at the top of it, and people think that makes something legit. It makes a certain bombing legit. It makes a certain economic sanctions legit. But in fact, NATO is, I changed, it was the Christmas wreath on the pedophile, so I changed it to the Christmas lights. Pedophile Christmas lights, that's right. I shrunk it down to a shorter phrase. It's the Christmas lights on the pedophile's home. They're just there to make you think everything's cool inside that house. So yet again, we have another case of pedophile Christmas lights. It's the blinking, everything's fine here. We're a useful part of society. While the behind the scenes, down in the dungeon, down in the basement, they're fucking doing all kinds of shit, like perpetrating a ridiculous propaganda effort against China right now. And so I think there's multiple levels to the story. Like I said, this shows you what our government, along with those who collaborate, is willing to do to launder information, to launder propaganda. They're willing to put all of these things in front of you so that you don't know where this information came from. You don't know really that it came from Adrian Zenz or that it came from the U.S. government. It's you look, you glance at it and you go, oh, Holocaust guy and New Line Institute sounds legit. And then the next step of that is all of our mainstream media, all of our corporate media running around and saying, look at this fucking report. It's independent and it shows there's a genocide. And then people who either don't bother to look into it or don't care that it's fake or, are part of this system, they run around and they say, yes, exactly, independent report. And it's all used to create a fucking propaganda, Cold War against China. So to get a little deeper on that, why do we need a propaganda Cold War on China? Why do we need a Cold War on China, economic war, etc., against China right now? Because the United States is a collapsing empire. They treat their workers like shit. The billionaires have stolen trillions of dollars over the past 40 years. All the jobs have been shipped overseas to places where they can pay workers 5 cents. And you can't have a society like that. So it's collapsing down around us. But what does America still have? They still have a massive military, bases around the world, 900 or so around the world, spending $1 trillion a year on military. And they have a fairly large, substantial propaganda network. A lot of the international news that goes out worldwide either is American, like CNN International or something, or is based on reporting from these outlets, the New York Times, the Washington Post, or what have you. And then, of course, there's the aligned ones like Reuters and stuff that's in Guardian. Yeah, they might be based in Britain, but Britain is a collapsing empire that's holding hands with America. Ironically, they're kind of both on the Titanic right now. They're the band playing the music on the Titanic. And holding hands as we create this war with China. So rather than be, good human beings and try to create some sort of camaraderie with other nations and create a world where we work together to further a sustainable and peaceful future, rather than do that, America is full on involved in trying to create war with so many countries. If they believe if they can be successful with this propaganda campaign and convince enough countries that China is committing genocide, or at least has some sort of extreme human rights problems, then they can stop people from trading with them, cut off trade, increase sanctions. And then you have a very weakened China, because we live in a global society. China needs to trade and work with others. And so as the unfettered capitalist system gets to kind of the end of its exploitation, because the environment is collapsing, you can only exploit things for so long. As it gets there, it's going to lash out in more and more ways. And this is one of them. This bullshit propaganda, this bullshit attacking of other countries. It's not just China, of course. This shit is being done against Venezuela and Syria and Russia and Iran and so many countries. So any country that dares, stand up to the United States, have a economic system that's different than the United States, have resources that they won't at least let the United States kind of buy up, purchase up. That's the nice way. The U.S. will grab resources, buy them up. But if that doesn't work out, then it's more of a smash grab operation. But I think that, this reveals what's going on, but at the very least, this reveals how pathetic our corporate media is, that they're willing to take a report that is completely based on garbage and based on a lot of the work of an anti-Semite who wants to see all the Jews in a fiery furnace, and they're willing to tout it. They're willing to celebrate it. They're willing to fucking jump up and down with it. And by the way, I think I kind of said this earlier, but anyone for the irony of the Wallenberg Center endorsing a fake genocide written by an anti-Semite who wants to see Jews in a fiery furnace? Anybody? Notice a little irony there? It's how pathetic this has gotten. All right, guys, I think that's about the episode. But like I said, all the donations, all the proceeds are going to those in need. You can learn more about that on our live stream that I do with Eleanor Goldfield. There'll be one this coming Sunday. I think it'll be roughly 8 or 9 p.m. It'll start youtube.com/momentofclarity and rockfin.com/Lee Camp. And we'll be talking about a lot of things, hitting on a lot of subjects. But yes, and also the Patreon's moved over to liberapay.com/Lee Camp. It's not at Patreon because they fucked me royally. But let's see. Thank you guys for commenting. Thank you for being here. Sorry I couldn't highlight as many comments this time because I was kind of trying to focus. Let's see. There's one good comment. Yes, Max Blumenthal does a lot of great work. Actually, he is the founder of the Gray Zone, which is where I was quoting from during this episode. Well, thank you guys so much. And check out my podcasts, Common Censored, Government Secrets, and Moment of Clarity. And keep fighting.